welcome to Witty Witty Banter.
I'm Monica.
And I'm Paola, and today we are interviewing two very special guests, the founders of the Dallas Youth Sports, Claudia and JR Huerta. They are here with us today.
Thank you for answering the call.
Yes, thank you for coming. It's actually my first time meeting you, but Monica has talked highly of both of you, and the energy that we've had so far has been great, and I am really excited for this conversation.
I know, we should have recorded a little bit of like the bloopers or like a little bit of extra, know, for our like Patreon people.
Right. We've been teasing we're going to start a Patreon.
At some point, when this gets a little bit better, more sponsors and things like that. Yeah. But thank you guys so much for coming in on a Monday morning. I've known y'all for a couple of years now and done a couple of gigs for y'all, and also did the national anthem for opening day for the baseball and for the flag football. So it was great to be out there with you guys, and thank y'all for that opportunity to be out there and to see what y'all are doing. But main thing is I want to show our listeners, show our people what y'all are about. So tell me how y'all got started with the Dallas Youth Sports.
Well, the short version is we love our kids and we wanted a place for them to play in the neighborhood.
Oh, I'm sorry. All of a sudden I got coughing. Like my wife Claudia, of course we're married.
Yes.
I moved up in life and married a very beautiful woman. So from Oak Cliff, and we moved there and started having our kids. And I've been coaching for 30 years. She's been part of my. Matter of fact, she was my team mom. Was our first child in the belly for my team. I was coaching. So we're coaching. We've been coaching. Been part of youth sports for the length of our marriage and length of our life together.
Yeah.
Before we had kids, and as we started having our kids, we figured out we were playing for Oak Cliff Little League, and it kind of dissolved, financial issues. And so we wanted somewhere for our kids to play in Oak Cliff instead of going to Grand Prairie or Duncanville like that. So in 2004, we had the opportunity to start a baseball organization. And the city came to us, or actually maybe both, we kind of found a mutual spot that they needed something and we were there to do it. So we started volunteering for the city of Dallas. A recreational program was baseball, and we started the program. And as it grew legs, it got to be a bigger program. But our son started playing baseball, and we just started growing the organization. The first year, only 36 kids played in our league.
Right.
And man, it was so disappointing, but we ended up playing against West Dallas. We played in their league, and it started, like I said, it started growing. It grew so much that we couldn't believe it. We added soccer right around 2008 or something like that. We started helping them with the soccer program. And I say the city actually added the programs. We were just their volunteer board members.
Yeah.
And we helped them with the volunteers and scheduling and just doing all the little stuff that they needed that they didn't have staff for. And in around 2008, if you ladies are young, so you might not remember this.
I was in middle school. Okay.
Yeah.
I
was in 8th
grade.
Dallas had a housing crisis, just like the rest of the United States, and all the property values went down, and so the tax growth went down for the city of Dallas. And in the brilliance of City of Dallas Council and mayors and all that, they cut two main programs they cut. One was libraries. We're going to shut down libraries.
No, my heart.
And the other one, we're going to cut all youth sports.
Devastating.
Those aren't important.
Right. Apparently not.
The two main things for a growing child.
Exactly.
Education and movement.
And to also keep them in the right spot.
Right.
Mentally.
And reading is where, we're sports, but we know all the statistics, and reading is the number one factor on how people build new jails. So when the test scores come out for third graders, they can predict how many new jails they need every year.
Speak on it, JR.
Yeah.
And so that's a shame that we're cutting out libraries at the time. But that's history that we got. We hopefully we fixed since then. So they came to us and said, "Hey, we're cutting out the program. Your program no longer exists." And the gentleman said, "But you can do something about it."
And of course, as I said, we didn't want our kids bring them Love Night Prairie, but we didn't want to take them outside the neighborhood when the park is literally 5 blocks away.
Right.
So this is where we came in and we took over because there's a place for our son to play, for our daughters to play. And we grew from there. We got a whole bunch of volunteers to help us out. And it just...
It did. It matured in itself, because what happened was that when we took over, we so the first year, I'll go back a little bit. For the first year, we're getting ready to go our first opening day for baseball, right?
Right.
We're it's you were there, and it's a big program. So a lot of people
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like they had a parade and everything. Like I do want to, if I have video and if y'all have video, please share it with us so that our people can see it. Because the parade, me and my dad were walking together, and my dad and I, we do everything. So shout out to Dad. He wanted to be here. He might be here a little later. But we just saw how everything was celebrated, and these kids, I mean, from different ages, from like itty bitty kids to like, what is the oldest age y'all have?
14.
14.
It's the best day of baseball.
Yeah, it's opening day. And so they made it really special for these teams. And, I was like, wow, y'all did that.
These little kids, 3 years old, they get to be in their little uniform and wave at the crowd, and you go from there all the way to 14, and it's exciting. It's kind of like a mini Mardi Gras, because they actually throw out like bees and candy to the crowd and stuff.
And like there's lines and lines of family like on the side until they get to the actual like field.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. When we first did it, we didn't know it was going to be like that. It just it's grown over the years, and it becomes a big festival. We have music out there, DJ Ramon's out there.
Oh, I love DJ Ramon.
Yeah, so it was just one of those things that we have everybody building. But when we did our first opening day, and I asked the city, hey, I got to go pick up the bases and the mounds that they always will always give it to us and loan them to us. And they said, we can no longer use our stuff. And we're like, why not? He said, well, because it's not our program anymore. This is your program. Because we went independent from the city.
Oh, okay.
So me and my wife in good spirit got our credit cards out, and we went and bought all the equipment we needed, baseballs, just everything that they would not give us. And of course, we're collecting money from the registration, but we didn't have that money marked for equipment.
Right.
So we didn't charge enough. So we were in debt the first year.
Yeah.
And
for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
She said,
I feel that.
Yeah. And,
tell the truth.
Yes.
And so we started raising. That's when we started. We figured, wait a minute, why ain't we asking the local business to help us out? Why ain't we asking this? And as we started building the program, we figured out the people don't want to give money if you're not a nonprofit. It's like, Mexicanos, we're all Mexicanos. I'm Chicano, and people say, ¿Dónde va el dinero? ¿Dónde va el dinero?
Right.
And so it was just a question. Now people are asking us, are we legit? Are we actually going to be there for a while?
Yeah.
And so we became a 501c right around 2012, I think, something like that.
Okay.
So now we are a viable 501c.
Nice. So you official.
We're official. Apart from us building the relationships with the community businesses and with the families and whatnot, there's other stuff behind the scenes, besides having to figure out the money issues. People don't realize it, and I don't often say it. We don't often say it, but there's blood, sweat, and tears. Behind the scenes. We're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and taking our kids out there, and they're helping us put out the bases and make the lines for, to run the bases and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so, and throughout the day, the kids are helping throughout the day. At the end of the day, we're picking up the bases, picking up the trash and stuff. This is blood, sweat, and tears, just not from us, but from our top 3 kids, Alicia, Jacob, and Crystal.
Thank you for mentioning them. We made it a point to mention them in this episode.
There's so much behind the scenes that people don't realize, and they don't give. Our kids don't get credit enough, and and then we have the bottom 2 kids. They were born into it. This is the only life they've known. To go out there and put up the bases and put up the banners and talk to people, and it's something. The people.
Nobody knows that side. We were talking about that actually on the sidelines whenever I was getting ready to sing the national anthem, and I was a little nervous because I was like, wow, like this is amazing. Like I was overwhelmed with how much support and how much excitement there was. And when that happens, I'm like, oh, I better do a good job. I got to make sure I'm on point,
Abuelita's watching in the corner.
Right. I was like, it's not just my dad, it's all these people, but you did mention a story to me about, y'all are celebrating 20 years of this program.
which I want to congratulate you
Yes,
in, because that's a lot of work, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears. So congratulations on that commitment and bringing sports to the youth in Oak Cliff. That is huge.
Yeah, and you mentioned that 20 years ago when y'all saw this, y'all didn't see how big this was going to be, because ultimately you did this in start of your kids, you know. So can you tell our listeners just a little bit about that story, about, you know, just growing up into the sports? And then I think you were also talking about being pregnant and being there.
Ooh, a whole nother beast.
That's a whole other beast. Well, yeah, it's, again, you know, our kids, you know, part of us, you know, working, you know, doing the registrations, you know, it's a family collaboration.
Yes.
You know, because the kids are, you know, they see us, you know, again, they woke up in the mornings with us at 5:00 in the morning, so they would be out the door by 6, so we'd be out there putting, you know, the bases and getting everything ready for everyone else. And, you know, it's something that they grew in. They had to learn, you know, again, teamwork, relationships, you know, hard work. They put in, as my husband says, sweat, equity into all this and whatnot, and just, again, building the relationships that are so important for our community, and seeing that, you know, this is a family that, you know, that sticks together, works together, you know, on that. You know, apart from us, you know, running the organization, you know, our kids are also, you know, players. You know, they want to be out there playing, you know, baseball and stuff. And there's when I was pregnant with my 4th child, Olivia, Jacob had a tournament that day, and so we're out there, you know, as we all do from early in the mornings, and I was a scorekeeper because team mom, and so we're out there, and it's I laugh now, but, you know, I'm having contractions, and I'm scorekeeping, and no one's taking over the score, but but they're very worried about me, so much that, you know, our parents are giving me ice, and, you know, the other team is, you know, they all know it, so they're bringing ice and they're bringing snacks for me. But it's okay, you keep taking score.
We need you, and that is the dedication that she has.
Yes,
almost having this baby on the field.
That was August 5th, 2006. About 3:00, we're in a championship game.
Oh my gosh,
we lost.
But Olivia was born the next morning.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So literally born into the foundation.
Almost on the field, in the foundation.
Wow. And so, like my wife says, you know, that our kids have put in as much work as she has, I have, and my wife has been more behind the scenes. She actually works for a lawyer, so she oversees our documents. So she's been that, good. You know, reads our documents, make sure we're up to T, and, you know, and everything's right. But in 2012, as we started becoming a nonprofit, and me and my wife, I'm sitting there, and I said, well, I believe in. I'll start writing this thing and our mission plan. You know, we have to figure out our mission. What is our mission? Because we're doing a lot more, and we ended up writing a 5-paragraph mission. It was 5 pillars in there, and what each pillar meant to us, and we're writing it down. And I think we rose that the first couple of years, and I told my wife, well, people are asking about us, but it's so hard for me to start talking about this 2 pages of information. So we sat down one day, and mostly she, and we came up with our mission plan. Nice. And it gave us our opportunity to talk about it easier. So our Dallas Youth Sports mission plan is to promote education, leadership, discipline, health, and wellness through sports.
Yeah.
And we took those 5 categories and what they meant to us on how we're doing it. Well, education is number 1. It doesn't matter what we do in life. You have to be educated. And
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be college. It just has to be, sometimes common sense can get you through life.
Yeah.
Amen.
But you got to be able to read and add. And people say, why is that? Because you got to be able to read the contract you're going to sign and be able to count the money you're going to get paid.
There you go.
If you can't do those 2 things in life, you can't do it. So education became our big thing. But we realized that sports creates leaders. And I tell this story a lot. In 2017, CNN, NBC did a story on female CEOs in America. And all female CEOs in America play varsity sports. So in high school. So that tells you right there that they become leaders because of sports. And of course, discipline, you create discipline, be on time and all that stuff.
Right.
But then we started talking about health. Health, you're on the field, you stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody asked me, what does wellness mean? I says, well, it's mental.
Yeah.
Something we don't consider. How can we make, if you're getting educated, you're a leader, you're disciplined, you also become mentally well in your mind.
That mindset.
Yeah. That mindset.
It is a mindset for sure.
So she kind of, we had those 5 pillars. She kind of put it in one sentence for me. And
so what was 5 paragraphs?
One sentence.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
But it gets to tell us, we call it the elevator speech, right? If you're talking to a CEO, what by the time you get down to the bottom floor or to the top, what can you give?
Yeah.
So we just had that one line speech, and since then, Dallas Youth Sports has grown a lot. We have an equity mission now, adequate plan that we have. So we believe that every kid plays sports no matter what their level of play or mental state, and just different things that we created through that. And our daughter Crystal is the director of community impact.
Nice.
And she does a lot more work than we ever imagined.
Really?
And I'm so proud of her.
Yeah. And sports is there. Jacob is the director of sports, and sports is there. We're dynamic at that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
20 years of doing it.
Yeah. But we try to change the culture now for the coaches to say, hey, the kids are watching you. Make sure you're doing it right all the time.
Yeah.
So that's more of our mission plan. And I learned that through 20 years. Believe me, at first, vamos a ganar, no importa, somos llorar.
How most of the dads
right?
are.
Yeah, right. That was my mission plan at the beginning, right? and
she's like, don't drag me in this one.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Marco is with Joel. He's like, because my stepson, he plays soccer, but he's in Royce City, and so I'll ask Marco, and he's my boyfriend, and I'm like, hey, so how did it go? Like, did he have fun? Like, did he enjoy it? Did he get to kick the ball around? Well, they didn't win. So I think it's a dad thing, really, at the beginning of it all.
Yeah. When you get older, right, you become things kind of take perspective, because being the truth is that men take a lot longer to grow up than women do, right?
It takes
a 54-year-old man to know that, because I had to grow up. But Claudia was mentioning our daughter was basically born at Keys number 6. It's what I told a story during our big gala and about her being born basically on the field at Keys.
Yes, literally.
But knowing that she was born there, now she always she wants the field named after her now. All of a sudden.
Y'all heard it here, folks.
Okay. So when that name changes,
it could be possible.
You heard it here first.
But just seeing our maturity, what we've done is really, really thing. And I know Claudia's always tell the story. Claudia's always been on the back, right? She's been the backbone. And without me, like I said, it took a long time to grow up. Without me realizing what she was doing for me, because sometimes the kids, we have parties, we got invited somewhere. Well, do you want to take the kids to their cousin's party? They're turning 10. It's called, well, I'll stay back and I'll finish the field work. You take them, and she would take them and do all that, all the family events. Even to my family, she would go without me sometimes, just because we had
8 till 6, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
And we were there all day. We still operate. Most of our team works, except for the admin. We work Monday through maybe Wednesday, and then we're off for 2 days. But at night, every afternoon, we have something going on, Monday through Friday. And Saturday is from 6 a.m. to sometimes 8, sometimes midnight. Just depends on the day, on things that we got going on. So it's of course, there's a lot more of us now. There's a lot more people that operate Dallas Youth Sports, because it's become, last year, we had, how many kids for sports, you remember?
I know 4,000.
I think it was. I know the total number, so I think it was 4,000 something for. I should know that number. 4,000 something for sports, but it was 13,000 kids that were involved with Dallas Youth Sports.
13,000. So you went from 36 kids the first year up to 13,000 in all of the sports organization and things that you do.
So only 4,000 something play sports with us.
Okay.
Which is still a big number.
It's huge
a huge number, and we're proud of that number. But the rest were part of our community events.
Amazing.
Right.
So our back to school.
We have our back to school event. We have our trick or treat event. We have our community night out.
Wow.
Which you are familiar with nights out. So they do it on Tuesdays. We do it on Thursdays because we play sports.
Yeah.
So we have a community night event. We during the holidays we give back to the community. We collect gifts to give to children who otherwise wouldn't have it. And that this year
it was 1,800 families.
Wow.
At an average of three per family.
Amazing.
Wow.
So it was a big number. And Crystal, like I said, Crystal, she's the one who heads that up.
Wow.
So me and my wife, me and my wife go out and talk to people about getting money to raise enough funds for that. We were at, we visited, what store we go to in Fort Worth, the company? Mattel.
Mattel, yes.
We were recently at Mattel talking to them about getting a big donation.
Ooh, nice.
And everybody said, well, why in February? Because people are planning right now for December. So
Yeah, exactly.
And our event this year is December 13th. It's the Christmas event. Going back, coming that out? October 8th?
Yes.
October 8th, maybe.
Okay, nice.
I'm trying to remember the days now. And our
call Crystal.
Yeah.
Call Crystal.
Yeah. So those are just some of the things that Dallas Youth Sports kind of grew into without us realizing, our mission and then the sports and we have baseball, soccer, and flag football. And,
okay.
And I know we already do basketball partnership, but Jacob was talking about launching the NBA soccer program in Oak Cliff. So we are NFL flag football sanctioned.
Nice.
And so we are a I always say we are a force, right? We use
absolutely.
We try to use only, like we're part of baseball, but we're not part of the baseball program yet. There's already one inside of our area.
Yeah.
So we're talking about kind of incorporating that together, but we try to use the brand NBA. We're going to use NBA. We have NFL.
Nice.
We are talking with the Dallas Stars, bringing a street hockey program.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be more like 2027, just because we got to get on their books. So that's
for sure.
Something we're planning. Sure. But our community events are amazing. I'm going to invite anybody that can hear this podcast. It's on July. Our back to school is July
27th.
July 27th.
And if y'all have a flyer, we can post the flyer.
It's a very special day.
Yeah.
It's definitely
for our family.
Tell us.
I will tell you. I will give you
the king was born.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my birthday. It's my birthday, so I'll take all gifts.
Yeah.
I know I'm giving away backpacks, but I still want gifts. So, and so, it's a big event. That day we'll give out 2,000 backpacks.
Wow.
And that product is already in-house, believe that or not.
Amazing.
So we've already made a deal with some companies and we already bought it. And I always say, people say, why don't they donate to you? Well, there's cost involved in getting it to our place.
Yeah.
So if they give us a product, we'll figure out how to get a truck there and pick it up. So there's always, that's why when I said we already bought it, that's the cost that we're affected.
Right.
Or other things that we're going to do that day. We just want the backpacks. They were brought in. They're, hopefully we don't have to get paid with. This is a whole different subject, but they're coming in. They're on a. Kind of from China when they come in. What do they come in?
They're on a crate.
They're on a container. And we always slow it. It take 20 weeks to get this, 30 weeks. We order it early.
Yes.
But now we might hit the new tax that's on there.
Yeah.
And, the tariffs. Yeah.
So that might affect us.
It's affecting everybody.
So we're waiting to hear back if that's going to affect us because they're not, they charge you when it gets to dock. Not before that.
Not before then.
Yeah, and it goes back to the buyer.
See.
So we might end up having to pay for that that tax that we're on the value of it. But we'll get that figured out when we get there. But just different things like that we do try to get ready for the whole year. But the biggest one is Christmas, and Christmas is amazing, and with all the friends and all.
Y'all
that.
need to come out.
Yeah, we would love to.
When you see the kids, receiving their gifts, their little faces and whatnot, and we try to. Give to the entire family. There's organizations that only give up to, let's say, age 10 or 12, and that's their cutoff. And so we try to do a little bit more because, for me, it's when you see that 14-year-old sister or 16-year-old brother, and their little siblings are walking out with a gift, and
they don't have anything.
It's
to me, it would seem like it was heartbreaking.
Excuse my language, but that sucks.
Yeah.
And so we try to give to the entire family. If you have a child that's still attending DISD, you listen. We try to give something to that boy or girl that's over the age of 12 and whatnot. There's sometimes it's an 18-year-old that hey, it's the senior in high school. We try to give them something because 1 year we gave out bicycles. We had a partnership with racing canes, and they gave us bicycles to give out. Wow. And to watch that 16-year-old girl grab that bicycle and just the pure joy in her face to know that my siblings went with something, but here
but
I walked out with something. It's an amazing feeling, and if you're there for the event, you're gonna walk out with a smile on your face and know that these kids really appreciate the effort that we put into.
Right.
And and Crystal and Jacob are awesome have awesome organizational skills with that. Crystal puts it in the effort, the organization, and Jacob implemented as per her instructions.
Yeah. She's usually the daughter that leads.
Yeah. As we all do.
Yeah.
It's Crystal's in charge, and we're just here to be her worker bees. But going back to the pillars that JR was talking about, those are also the basis of our families. Our own family, because we want our children to be educated. We want them to be in the right mindset. We want them to be healthy. So things that we want for our own family are things that we want for other people's families. A lot of times there's people that's solamente para mí, only for me and my family. But for us, it's I want what I have, what my kids are having. I want them for you too, because as Latinos and Chicanos and Hispanics, we could only grow from that base if we share our knowledge with others. Just, and give back and teach others what we've been learning the hard way.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. I definitely agree with that, because it is important, not just in the mindset of sports, but it's important for family, And so those pillars, like how you're saying, they apply to you and your family. And when people see that, when people see a family that's together, as strong and committed, they're going to want that for themselves too. And then so on and so forth. I think you even said that your grandbabies are in the program as well.
We just had our first grandchild. She's only a year and a half, but so she'll be playing in the next year and a half from now. But she's born into it, and she's part of our meetings, or the meetings that he has, and she's part of She likes to talk in the background. She has an opinion.
Already born leader.
Absolutely.
Those pillars apply. The pillars apply.
Yeah, and she'll be playing in a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited about that, because I already told her I'm going to do at least the first year head coach for her, and then from there I'm going to give it to her parents or my son. Our son, Jacob, he has 2 teams now. He doesn't have any kids. He's kind of starting what we started. So he's coaching them right now. He's coaching our nephews, my great nephews. So he does have family in it, but it's still not your kid, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but he still volunteered. We all been volunteers and coaching. I tell Claudia all the time, I says, we're coaching without being on the field.
Yeah.
And people watch what we do. I mean, Claudia is Dallas County Commissioner Elba Garcia recently put her on a board. I've been on boards before, but she's leading the way for kids that need help, right? Amazing. For the foster kids. So she's one of the board members that gets to decide stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a board member for CASA, and it's for children who go into the foster care system. Yes. And so we make I have a small part in that, but it's a great organization. And again, we have to give back to our community. We have to make sure that the kids, even if they're not ours, that are taken care of and are watched over.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the biggest thing we can tell, when you start thinking about Latinos, right? Chicanos, I'm Chicano. I tell people that all the time. I said, my first language was English.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. And,
no, they don't.
and we heard, people like Ramona Ala and oh my God, I had all these bands at the Sarape Ballroom. If you've been in Dallas a long time, you know about the Sarape Ballroom. That was the place where you went to go dance. It was a dance hall, or Guys and Dolls in Fort Worth, and so I got to see all those bands playing in those saloons through my parents and my sisters, but I was Chicano and I was English only. I would go in those places. I didn't know a word of Spanish, but I was there English, and it's hard for people to understand that. But now that we get older and we understand that we need more Spanish and be a little bit more, be able to communicate with everybody. I got a hard lesson one time, and I went to a class called Hola, And I talked to you about this, and this whole concept threw me out. We walk into a classroom, and the teacher starts talking in Spanish. She says,
Yep.
"Buenos dias, buenos dias." And this is a few years back. Think about this, is like I'm 50, so I'm just getting this lesson. And we're sitting there, and hola, cómo estás? Siéntase, vamos a comenzar. So everybody's getting ready. So I have a white friend with me, and he sees that we sat down. He sat down. He didn't question it, right? So I didn't realize you get the point. So he sat down. So then she says, anybody who understands Spanish, she was saying in Spanish, anybody que sabe que estoy hablando en español, sube la mano. We all. Anybody who spoke English, raise your hand. Pon la mano abajo, okay. Otra vez, we all raise our hand. Si sabes lo que estoy diciendo, parte, ponte de pie. And we all stood up, except the non-Spanish speaking people.
Yeah.
Do you know what our mistake was?
What?
We didn't translate for them.
Mm.
Everybody
Oh.
everybody that only speaks Spanish wants everything translated for them. But how about the people that are sitting next to you that don't know
That's a good
Spanish?
perspective.
We're not translating for them. She says, you
Yeah.
want this done one way only, but you're not doing it the other way.
Wow.
So I took a hard lesson with that. And it's and now I make sure my kids say, I'll say, let's not translate in Spanish, or let's not Google Translate, or whatever it is. And they're all like, oh, I said, we need to do it every language, figure out a way to get it out.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we can't just have it all in Spanish. We gotta have it in English too, or vice versa. Because we're not helping everybody, even the non-Spanish speakers. We don't think about them. I said, man, I wish I would have known this when I was a kid, and they were talking in Spanish. I didn't know a thing they were saying.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson that I learned.
Amen, brother.
Preach to the
feel
choir.
that.
So it's just one of those
Wow.
life lessons. I was 50 years old before I learned that. But think about it. How many people are making that same mistake every day?
Yeah.
You think only because you're speaking Spanish,
Right.
our brothers don't know. So we got to make sure we do that. We translate also the opposite way.
And not only are you bringing the community together, but you're being responsive to the culture and the diversity that is now in Oak Cliff and the DFW area, which is incredible too.
Yeah, Oak Cliff has changed a lot, and it's become a big stew pot of what Dallas is, or what Dallas should be. I always say that because we have everybody there. We've always had people there of all colors, but now it stands out more. Because everybody wants better things. And sometimes our older Latinos don't understand that, because we want an epic center.
Yeah.
But we want to stay. We don't want nothing built new, because now our property value goes up. So we're afraid of the new tax code. But we want new things.
Right.
Can't have it both ways.
See.
There's got to be some kind of change, and I think we were talking about that a little bit before we started the episode, that with change there is some pushback. There always is going to be some kind of ugly or not necessarily positive thing about change, but change has to happen or occur in order for things to grow.
And I think that we learned that through sports. Sports have been a big dynamic. And I recently went into a place, and there was a lot of people just saying hello to me, and my council member said, man, everybody in the room. And then one guy says, well, if you've done sports in Oak Cliff, you know JR.
Yeah.
And all our kids are going through the system.
Wow.
Right? So it's just one of those things. And it was a pillar of a lot of people in our community. It was all races there. And I kind of felt good about that, but at the same time I tell my wife, I can't go nowhere if anybody knows me. So can we just hide out?
We went to Disney World one time, ran into somebody. We're like, my kids were like, really, Dad?
Yeah.
And that's more because she's always stayed back. Now people are recognizing her, and I'm proud of that, because she had, sometimes I say, more to do with it than I had, because she took care of the kids when I was gone. Got them dressed, got them ready for school, whatever it was. She was doing all that work that people don't see. When a man is successful, the woman is always the backbone of the house.
Amen.
So, and again, it takes us a long time to figure that out, because we are men. But if we figure it out, we're pretty good at the end, But
I mean, the amazing part about that is that you give her the opportunity to shine. Like, you recognize that. And so many people, Latinos include, especially Latino men, it's hard for them to take a little bit of that shine from themselves to give to their wife, and to recognize all of the sacrifice and the things that you do as a wife, as a mother, as a team player in this. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So kudos to y'all.
And having y'all here together representing the foundation has been really incredible too.
And I think we Dallas Sports is great, and it does everything. and she you can tell she likes to stay in the background a lot. She lets me
like my mom is just like that.
And she'll speak, but a lot of the things that we have, a lot of the ideas that we have was partly because of her, because I'll commit to things real quick, right? And I love doing things, and somebody asked me to help the community out. I'm in. Let's figure it out. We'll figure it out together. And but she's make the events better, or figure out a way to make it easier, or even when she talks about the kids that we get from the 0 to 17.
So she's like doing logistics.
I was never into that. I was like, man, we just gotta do 12. It's easier to go buy dolls. And she convinced me because she told a story, and I already knew the story, but she was telling our board why she wanted to do all the way to 17. I'll let her tell you that story if she wants to.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
Well, growing up, we didn't always have a lot.
Yeah.
And my dad, the proud Mexicano, is like, you can't go ask for this or that and whatnot. So having to go back to school and knowing you didn't get Christmas presents, after the holidays, it really sucks. And especially it's like, even, the other young kids stuff. So for me, it's a personal thing to get back to the community, because I don't ever want someone, if we could help it, if we could play a small part, is we want to make sure that kids go back to school and be happy to be bragged about, even if it's one little item, but to be a child who did without. It's a very personal thing to give back to the community, and to, again, it shouldn't matter whether you're 3 years old or 13 years old or even 17 years old. It's that self-esteem of and worth, of walking out with a gift. Sometimes we don't realize the sacrifices that even our teenagers make when there's not enough in the family.
Yeah.
They want their little brothers and sisters to be happy, but they feel it too. Like, oh well, little Juanito got something, but I'm 16, so I have to suck it up and do without. And I don't want a child to have to suck it up, if they could avoid it. And so we try. That's why there's, as someone who didn't often get gifts, at Christmas or even birthdays, it's very personal to me.
Yeah.
To make sure that we give back. And see that, and make sure that these kids know that they're valued.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that they're seen.
No, yeah, and I love that so much, because in this time and age, kids are growing up so fast. And what you said is like being a 16-year-old and you're having to suck it up and like, well, I'm an adult now. I have to provide for my little brothers and sisters. Like I have to sacrifice
the nice thing to do,
or the right thing to do. And in reality, it's like kind of forcing them to grow up and like hide a part of themselves that they shouldn't have to, so you bringing that awareness to the fact that it is important for everybody, no matter of the age or race, to enjoy the holidays and be seen and feel good. I love
that. And it goes back to one of our pillars, the mental,
it's mental wellness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is that I always tell her, you got to tell me what, because my family was the richest, poorest family in our neighborhood. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
No,
I feel that. I feel that.
Out of all the poorest families we had, my dad, rest in peace. He worked 6-7 days a week. We always had what we needed. We had food on our table and we got gifts when we needed. It was always provided for us through my dad and my mom. But she was not in the same case I was. Her dad had different mental, or not mental,
we
different
always
ideas.
had what we needed. Maybe not everything that we wanted.
Yeah.
We had what we needed, and that was enough, so to speak, in my dad's eyes. You've got a roof over your head, you got food in your belly. It might just be rice and beans, but you got something.
Right.
And so it's how can I say it? It's something that I didn't want my children
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. You don't want to pass down that trauma, because at the end of the day, it is trauma, right? And so you want to give them a better life.
It was always hard work. You work hard, and that's something that we do have in common. Is working hard to have what we need. And hopefully we've got a couple of things that we wanted at this point.
Amen, sister. Yes.
We definitely we live way better than we did when we had 5 kids at home. So I tell you that. So that I tell you that. And even I tell her that we see our kids and as we get older, you start thinking about what's going to happen when I move on, right? When I leave this earth, what's going to happen? And I just want a legacy. I want a legacy that we want a legacy. I imagine, not that we're leaving them behind this enormous real estate or big old paycheck, but that we left a legacy with them. Hopefully 100%. They know what we left them. And the legacy is we work hard for them. We provided. Our three older kids have all graduated college. Our fourth one is going to college next year.
Wow. Congrats.
And she actually gets her associates next month.
So that's our legacy. I tell her all the time.
Yes.
And if we can just have them grow from that and grow, and if the organization lives to 40 years old or 30 or whatever that whenever it stops existing, that's great. But if our kids are pillars of the community and helping their neighbors, that's really where our legacy's at. Wow. And that's the biggest thing. And giving back to others. Service is big. And I know her parents. Her dad was a Baptist minister, and he got his service through giving out the word of Christ. And my parents were not necessarily religious. We were Mexicanos, right? We went church on Easter and Christmas, right?
You got the traditions.
Same.
My mom always gave. And she will cook. I mean, you got to the house, you're going to eat. Or she's going to give you something. And she's always been that way no matter what. And I think that's where I got my giving kind of, I like to give stuff because I want people to, know that we're doing it. And it kind of leaves us, leads us to where we're at today.
And for us, it's a lot of the reasons that we did without was because, my parents gave to others.
Yeah.
And so, hey, I got you Barbie doll, but there's a girl at the door and they didn't have anything for Christmas. So
we're going to give that to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I got to see giving back to the community and whatnot. My mom was, part of the PTA and whatnot. And, we're big, members of the community. But, it's also, again, behind the scenes, you don't realize that there's kids that are doing without, because my parents were always giving me, fed everybody and whatnot. They didn't realize that it was just rice and beans for us, because, we're helping out with someone who needed groceries or to pay their rent and whatnot, and the same thing with our kids, they got this, blood, sweat, and tears, they put equity in here. They've been out there putting bases, picking up trash and whatnot and moving furniture and moving whatever it is, and, apart from that, the players that we have on the field, they're learning the skills that our kids learned. They're learning teamwork. They're learning how to work well with others, being responsible for their equipment and whatnot. But, there's one thing that we never really talked about, and it really hit me until recently. There's things that they have benefited apart from that. They've made new friendships, that are from different economic backgrounds.
Yes.
You could have, someone whose father is on the city council or one of the Texas Rangers on the team with, someone who's, the waiter at the local restaurant, and those kids are playing together. So it's awesome to see that. Apart from that, we get the opportunity to, not just for the children, but the adults, because we have some amazing coaches, assistant coaches, team moms who also put in their time. They're all volunteers, and they're learning skills, of putting team together and whatnot. And through all that, the friendships that have been built through the last 20 years, those are thousands of friendships that may not have otherwise connected if it wasn't for our organization. And so I'm proud of that as well.
Yes, you should be. Your foundation sounds like it already is a pillar of the community, and your legacy stands very strong, and I can feel that, and I want to go to your next event, July 27th, right?
I think so.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Y'all be there too.
Because
we'll make
I
sure
want
to have
feel
the
that
flyer.
energy of the community. Like you guys already embody all that you stand for, and I can already feel it. So I can only imagine how it is out in the fields, the camaraderie.
When I tell you, man, that energy is there.
Wow,
it really is, and that's. I mean, ultimately, that's why I was like, we have to talk about it. We have to bring y'all on. We have to talk about it. But before we get into our last question, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor.
Yeah.
Buying or selling a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. It can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's where Susie Saldivar Real Estate comes in.
From first-time home buyers to seasoned investors, their experienced realtors are here to help. Needing financing options? Looking for down payment assistance? Searching for that perfect fix and flip opportunity? They've got you covered.
Their team knows the Dallas-Fort Worth market inside and out and is committed to making the process as smooth as possible. Whether you're in Grand Prairie, Arlington, North Richland Hills, DeSoto, Carrollton, or anywhere in North Texas, they have agents ready to assist.
Let Susie Saldivar Real Estate turn your real estate goals into reality. Call 817-846-3584 or email susie@susiesaldivar.com or visit susiesaldivar.com to get started today.
Susie Saldivar Real Estate. Real
experts, real results.
All right, and we're back. So we have one final question for you guys, both. We always like to ask our interviewees, what advice would you give people that are looking up to you, whether they're younger, older, whatever age group, about starting a nonprofit in their city, in their, community? What advice would you give them?
I think on my part, I would give people is that, so every morning somebody wakes up, right? And you got to decide what you're going to do for the day. And I live on 3 pillars, and now, and I know we talked about our pillars, but I have 3 pillars as a man, which is I'm either going to put your work, your family, or your God in front of you every day. It doesn't matter where you would. If it's work all day. If it's family, it's family all day, or if it's God, So I'll put those in perspective. But that's where the person needs to build, if they're going to do a 501c, figure out first if their life can afford it.
Yep.
Okay, because we all have projects that
we'll figure out afterwards.
Yeah.
And I had a young man who came to me almost now 10 years ago, and he was talking about making his nonprofit. And I says, you're trying to start a nonprofit. How you doing financially? And he says, well, I ain't got a job yet. I says, so how you going to start the nonprofit?
Yeah.
I said, even our organization 20 years ago when we started it, I was 30 something years old. So it wasn't like we started it at 19 or 20.
Right.
But everything you do in life costs something. Either costs you time, family, or money.
Yep.
So you got to figure those 3 things out. What do you want? Do you really want to do this 100%? If you do, how are you going to pay your bills? Who's going to pay your light bill at the end of the month? Who's going to pay your card note? Who's going to pay your rent? So if you want to do it, you got to figure out how to do that first. And once you got that figured out, then you can start your nonprofit. And sometimes nonprofits don't start off as nonprofits. Like ours was not.
We did.
And
I still have my day job, so to speak. I'm celebrating 31 years this year with the
Congratulations.
same employer.
Oh, dang, girl. She loyal.
And I don't have my day job anymore. I left my last job 12 years ago, something like that. But I don't work for Dallas Youth Sports. Dallas Youth Sports is a 100% volunteer organization.
Wow, yeah.
I make money on other sports ventures that we have. So that's how I get paid. But Dallas Youth Sports is 100% participate, volunteer, from the coaches Claudia was talking about to our directors of sports and all that. We just find other aspects to fund what we do. So we own Dallas Sports Alliance, which is LLC.
Nice.
They are a tournament company that runs baseball tournaments, soccer tournaments, everything. And our employees have to also volunteer for Dallas Youth Sports.
Okay,
nice. So when you get hired on, part of your job is to help us operate the nonprofit side.
Amazing.
So because we're not, sports ain't all year round, but the nonprofit is. So we always continuation. If you want to be on a salary employee, you got to do both. And even our people that we pay on staff, sometimes we don't have enough volunteers. We'll send them over to maybe clean up a field or something like that, whatever needs to be done. So we figure out how to. It took us a long time to figure this out, and the nonprofit, you really got to figure out if that's what you want to do, and try to be different than everybody else. I know sports is one thing, and I know everybody tries to do a sports, but it's just hard to get there because there really is no money for sports. There's no grants being given out for sports. There's no federal grants, state grants, or even city grants.
See, wow. I didn't know that.
You try to find sponsorship, and that's where we're at. Always trying to find the next sponsor to help us. That would be my advice. Make sure you can pay your bills at first, and then start growing from there, and grow a little bit at a time. Or if you're going to go 100%, again, how are you going to make money? The thing that upsets me the most, and probably hurt too, is nonprofits that take the first 25% to pay salaries. And not giving back to organizations.
I kind of have a little like, when that is, because for me, nonprofit is really giving back to the community and not necessarily pocketing any of that profit.
Absolutely.
It's about the service, like you were saying. So for me, when I hear nonprofit, I do want it to be in service of the community and for the community. And I understand and see the value in the workers and everybody who does the work. But I have that same kind of mindset with nonprofit. So it's really refreshing to hear that you have other avenues and you have started other ventures to help with your bills. Because I am also a big person on make sure you can pay your bills and you're safe, because you can get into debt real quick.
Quick, as we did the first, I think, 5 years. We were
same.
We're paying off that credit card and we got into debt over it. And she's happy about it. We laugh about it now. She wasn't so happy back then, but that's 20 years ago.
Because it reminded me of my childhood.
Yes, I feel that.
So and that part. But I think just thinking about how you're gonna pay yourself to do a nonprofit is hard, and we're platinum rated. I'm proud of this platinum rating.
Period.
Our nonprofit is because we always 100% of our dollars is back to the kids.
I love that.
And I'm really proud of that. That's the most proud thing I'm of when we started the organization, because when we wrote it up, the first year, we're going to be volunteers. Nobody's going to get paid no matter what. We're going to figure it out, and we have to pay ourselves back.
Yeah,
that kind of we're taking away from our mission, but then the board well, you still got to pay yourself back. So it was just,
you still got to use the phone, so at least pay the phone bill.
Right? At least something that's that's involved in what you're trying to do in the first place.
Right.
But whatever you do, you need to have a passion for it and love for it. For us, it was the love of our children.
Yeah,
and for them to have something better than what we had and opportunities that we did, and so. One of the opportunity for them to play down the street from the house as opposed to further away, it was something that we based on, that we wanted for our kids and we wanted for other children. So whatever you decide in whatever venture, make sure that you have a passion for it and you have a purpose for it and that you have a love for it. And if it's not something that you're all in 100%. That's nothing. It's not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because nothing is easier than doing something that you actually love and are passionate for. And so we are just so grateful that you came here and inspired us.
Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, this is incredible.
We appreciate y'all having us here at the Big Epic Center. Paola and Monica, we appreciate it so much.
And I just want to say I'm so very thankful for my daughter Alicia, my daughter Crystal, my son Jacob, and my daughter Olivia, and my son Teddy. This is his last year playing, and so it's a little bittersweet. But I'm so thankful for their willingness and everything that they put into our organization. Because without them, I don't think we would have lasted as long as we have.
Yeah, truly a family venture here.
Yes.
Very connected. Very.
So
strong.
Shout out to all of y'all.
Yes.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow our YouTube channel as well as Spotify. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and I believe TikTok.
Yes.
There's so many for
until
now.
It gets, whatever decision comes out of it.
Yes. Now, if you have any questions for JR, Claudia, or their family, you can email us at wittybanter@gmail.com. We have our individual handles on Instagram, but we are also on Instagram, Witty Banter. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.